Hello, and welcome to writing class. Today's topic will be the myth of Shakespeare, William Shakespeare. I bought my complete Shakespeare at a Salvation Army some time ago during college. When every writer, they want to be the next Shakespeare. They want to write this much. But as a writer, he was an entertainer. He wrote plays to entertain an audience. They are as much, now we think of them as something to be read, but they still put on Shakespeare's productions, and it's just like music. A great musician or someone who understands music, they could read one of Beethoven's symphonies, and they could hear the music just by reading the notes. But for an audience to enjoy, anybody can hear the music and enjoy it. You don't have to understand it. In Shakespeare's words, it is tough for some people to read, even for people to watch the play, to understand the words, because they're so fast, they're so rich. But you can see the movement on the stage. You can see, oh, this man who started out the play, he's trying to trick everybody. Or these two are trying to fall in love with each other. The first introduction I had to Shakespeare was in English class in my freshman year, and we read Romeo and Juliet, and I've seen it in many cartoons. I think it is the most redone play of his, and I didn't enjoy reading it. I enjoyed listening to somebody talk about it. My dad taught Shakespeare when he was an English teacher, and he had tapes. I watched Macbeth and Hamlet, and Hamlet was, once I saw Hamlet on that VHS, I loved Shakespeare. For the performance, the actor who was playing Hamlet was Sir Derek Jacobi, and he does this wonderful job because Hamlet is so animated. He's going crazier and crazier as the play goes on. He has those rich words, as my friend Richard would say. Those words, they're so powerful. And as Derek Jacobi plays Hamlet, you become alive with him as he's saying all these great words and the action is going. And what Shakespeare deals with best, some might say love, but I say he deals with madness the best. One beautiful touch, I'll touch on love once more. My fiance was living in Stratford-Avon, Shakespeare's hometown, when we met. And that's a beautiful part of our love story, and I'll forever think about that and cherish it. I love you, Zay. But with Shakespeare, he's talking about the natural order. He's talking about philosophy that has cultivated in Europe over the centuries, and he's flipping the natural order, and he's saying this is what happens when things are out of order. I'll read King Lear. King Lear goes into madness just like Hamlet, and I'll read Act 3, Scene 2, between King Lear and the Fool. And the Fool is Edgar, who had to disguise himself as a naked man, rub mud on himself, and just to, he's wanted, he's been tricked, that his half-brother tricks everybody to thinking that Edgar is a bad person, that he was conspiring, so he has to flee into the woods, leave the kingdom, leave the natural world for the unnatural world, and he becomes a fool. But he's trying to help King Lear understand that he is going insane, that King Lear is more insane than this fool. So, we'll read Scene 2, another part of the heath, storm still. Enter Lear and Fool. Lear. Blow, winds, and crack your cheeks, rage, blow, you cataracts and hurricanos, spout, till you have drenched our steeples, drowned the cocks, you sulphurous and thought-executing fires, vaunt couriers to oak-cleaving thunderbolts, singe my white head, and thou, all-shaking thunder, smite flat the thick rotundity o' the world, crack nature's moulds, all Germans spill at once, that make ingrateful man, fool. Oh, nuncle, court holy water in a dry house is better than this rain-water out a door. Good nuncle, in and ask thy daughter's blessing. Here's a night pities neither wise man nor fool. Lear. Rumble thy belly full, spit fire, spout rain, nor rain, wind, thunder, fire are my daughters. I tax not you, you elements, with unkindness. I never gave you kingdom, called you children. You owe me no subscription. Then let fall your horrible pleasure. Here I stand, your slave, a poor, infirm, weak, and despised old man. But yet I call you servile ministers, that have with two pernicious daughters joined your high engendered battles against a head so old and white as this. Oh, oh, 'tis foul, fool. He that has a house to put his head in has a good headpiece. The codpiece that will house before the head has any, the head and he shall louse, so beggars marry many. The man that makes his toe what he his heart should make, shall of a corn cry woe, and turn his sleep to wake. For there was never yet fair woman, but she made mouths in a glass. Lear. No, I will be the pattern of all patience. I will say nothing. And what does that mean? Well, the fool is saying, when he says, poor Tom keeps repeating a message saying, poor Tom's a cold. Think about that you're cold. You need clothing. You need shelter. You need food. Don't fool yourself with these high philosophical things of being the king and being appointed by God and what the storm is doing and what is in heaven. Just think about you need to be in shelter. You need to be inside. You need to be made sane by following the rules and being in the natural order. Now, a lot of Shakespeare is just nice stories, comedies. The good guys fall in love and then they get the girl at the end, and the bad guys are vanquished. But in other Shakespeare, we have the tragedies, and those are what people remember: the tragedy of King Lear, Hamlet, Macbeth. And that has created the myth of the man Shakespeare, where we can see so many people falling into those same traps of greatness. I need to be great, and then they follow these disastrous spirits, and they think they're doing the right thing. Like Hamlet, he thinks he's doing the right thing, but everybody's just trying to calm him down. In Shakespeare's day, it's a Christian world, and you don't listen to ghosts. And the first thing Hamlet, he is sad because his father has died, and then his friends say, we have seen your father's ghost. And everybody's telling Hamlet later on, he's like, this is not how a man would take his father's death. Later on, they say, a man says to him, your father lost a father, and his father lost a father. What's happening to you is not uncommon, but you are not taking it the right way. Shakespeare is showing that if you give yourself to these disastrous spirits, you will end in disaster. And that's the beauty of it, in his words, is the tragedy of it, because they're trying to show his audience is like, don't follow these characters. Yes, you can love them. Yes, you can feel for them, but don't follow what they do, because Hamlet, beautiful words, those great words, as he says, words, 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 but he has become a sponge, he says that. I have a poem that I wrote, it's called The Lima Bean Trees. And this is to help understand poetry and to understand symbolism in Shakespeare. I can't explain all of Shakespeare, but I can explain my own poetry. So, the Lima Bean Trees. The lima bean trees began to flower, the reminder of my formative years. Dad said, "Look, these petals do not cower, and soon will bear fruit up to our ears. Drinking sunshine with glowing faces, overflowing inwardly water pump, pooling beneath as a fount of graces, lest every tree standing become a stump. From the myrtle trees to the sycamores, to rye fields, willow patches, and hawthorn, cottonwood canoes, carousel wood floors, how Christ blushed waters of the Grecian urn, how the pruning hooks battle Shakespeare's words, how the trees the tempest, how the yard birds." And we'll go from the bottom to the top. How the trees the tempest, how the yard birds. Well, the trees are always going to be standing. The Tempest is Shakespeare's last solo project, and it's about a magician who's on an island. He's spending his last bits of magic to give his daughter a better life. But the trees will always be standing, the tempest will blow, and then the morning will come, and the yard birds will settle. There can be broken twigs on the ground, but the spirits come back. The birds are spiritual to me. They will come back, and they will be chirping, and there will be merriment, and I'll be happy again. And now, how the pruning hooks battle Shakespeare's words. Now, people edit. They always edit, and they try to figure out what Shakespeare's words mean. And Shakespeare's words are lost to us. We have the first and second folio, where everybody agrees that those were his plays, or that's what Shakespeare is these collection of plays. But what he actually wrote, we don't have the first copies, so they have been changed a little bit. Nobody's been around, the 16th century or the 1600s don't change, but it's hard for us to pinpoint what it was exactly, because there wasn't a movie camera, there wasn't, we don't have the eyewitness now. We have Ben Jonson, Shakespeare's contemporary, to say there was a Shakespeare and he was great, he was the best, but we don't have him anymore either. But so, how Christ blushed waters of the Grecian urn, and that's the wedding of Cana, where he fills the jars with water. Shakespeare used the English historian Holinshed, the Roman historian Plutarch. He's taking water. He's taking stories that everybody knows. He's making them his own, and that's what you can do. You can take the history of America, the history of Africa, the history of England, history of anywhere, and you can retell the story, and you can elaborate. You can bring it to life again. And the Grecian urn is, oh man, I think it's Keats. Now I'm recording. I'm not going to record this, but the Grecian urn is beauty. Truth is beauty. Beauty, truth. Where it's saying the Grecian urn lasts. We think the Grecian urn is beautiful. We should think Shakespeare is beautiful. But you have to be like Christ. You have to be able to blush the waters. You have to turn water into wine. Only Christ can do that. But we can do that in a sense in our writing. We can make something spiritual, we can make something beautiful. That's just water, that's just substantive. We can make it super substantial. Cottonwood canoes, carousel wood floors. Now, that is from the cottonwood trees of my dad's place, and you could see, everybody's seen these puffs, these little, the cottonwood seeds. Carousel, the wood floors, or whatever you want to think, a base, wood floors, or a desk. These little angels sailing down and landing upon your desk. Where do you get your inspiration from? To rye fields, willow patches, and hawthorn. Catcher in the rye fields, willow patches. There's willow patches around my dad's, and Hawthorne, Nathaniel Hawthorne, beginning of one of the beginnings of American literature. Him and Edgar Allan Poe, and obviously Melville and all of them. I don't need to name drop everyone, but from the myrtle trees to the sycamore, to me that goes back to Israel. The myrtle tree, it's in the Bible. The sycamores, to me that's New England again, and that's how it leads into the New England writers of America. And I'll read from there's a quote that I have my dad's telling me. Look, these petals do not cower, and soon will bear fruit up to our ears. That trees, like in the last line, they regenerate. Every year they grow back their leaves, they grow their shade. There's the Aesop fable of the travelers. They are on a road and it's hot, and they come to a shade tree, a plane tree, and they sit under it and they're enjoying the shade, and then they look up and they're like, well, this tree doesn't even have any fruit. And then they complain about it, and the tree comes to life and it says, how can you sit under my shade and complain that there's no fruit? You always want something more. You can't be content with anything. You can't enjoy anything. Drinking sunshine with glowing faces, overflowing inwardly, water pump. You drink in those words that you're reading, and it's sunshine, it's light, it's beauty. Overflowing inwardly as a water pump, your soul drinking in those words, and those words becoming something you remember. You can quote Shakespeare, you can, and hopefully people will quote you, or people will reenact your plays, people will make a movie out of the book that you wrote. And then pooling beneath as a fount of graces, lest every tree become a stump. And beneath, it's under your readers. They can soak up your words from the pool that you have created. You are the rainwater. You're soaking into the ground, and they suck up your words, and they use your words to invoke feeling. My mom tells me about, there's a Bob Dylan song that I heard one time, and I don't know what it is, but I had that feeling, and she even says she probably heard it again, but she didn't have the same feeling, but that from hearing it again, and she can't remember which song it is, but the beauty of that moment, that the time that she heard it was the time that she needed to hear it, and the words were beautiful to her, and she loves Bob Dylan because of that feeling. She loves Bob Dylan for other reasons, because she says, it's like, he's thinking what I'm thinking. How could that be? And your words can be like the Grecian urn. It can last. They can be a standard of beauty, a standard of truth, even if that is somewhat of a facetious remark. But so at the top, the lima bean trees began to flower, the reminder of my formative years. The budding, the lima beans aren't yet ripe, and there's not lima bean trees, but that's part of the magic of everybody understands that the apple trees or the fruit trees, the banana trees, they give your readers something to eat, or to read. Jesus says that you will know each tree by the fruits, and you are to produce fruits. And even if you're just producing shade for travelers, that's good too. And I'll end there. God bless. I love you and thank you. Please subscribe and please share.